Dave.
Hey.
Okay, here's Brian Wilson.
Hey, Brian. Aloha.
Hey, aloha. How are you?
I am very good. Thank you for asking. And yourself?
Very, very good. Aloha to you and aloha to your listeners.
We really appreciate you taking a moment for us. I am grateful. Before we get into Reimagines Gershwin, I was just hoping to take a quick moment to explore any connections that you have to Hawaii. Your earliest, perhaps, experiences, if you could recall.
Well, I have to say I've been to Kona many times. I've been to Maui a couple of times, and I've been to Kauai, but most of the time I've spent more time in Honolulu. And let me tell you, the Waikiki, Sheraton Waikiki, and the Royal Hawaiian, those are great hotels.
Any particular memories that come to mind when you think of Hawaii?
Of course. I used to swim in the ocean there. I'd swim for like 45 minutes.
Wow. Okay, cool. And when was the last time you were here?
Oh, in Honolulu?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh. I wouldn't be able to tell you. Many years.
Okay. And how about the state in general?
What state? Hawaii?
Yeah. Have you been to... when was the last time you were on any island?
About a year and a half ago, I was in Kona. But that's all.
Nice. Well, hopefully another time that you come through, you'll consider revisiting Honolulu. We'd love to have you back here.
I love Honolulu. It's one of my favorite cities in the whole world.
That's great.
London and L.A.
That you would rank it that high?
I would say L.A. and then London, and then, of course, a quick third would be the Honolulu place where people are, you know?
And what about New York?
Well, New York is a place that I don't associate happiness with. I've been there many times, and many times I've had mental problems, mostly because I'm intimidated by the size of the buildings.
Okay, now that makes sense.
I feel so small in New York City, you know.
It has that ability to dwarf. And certainly, I would say, in a similar way, the sound that you create with your music can often do that to people. Your journey with the Gershwin's music began at a remarkably young age. I was hoping that you'd give us some of the background and context on that early influence.
I sure will. When I was 4 years old, my grandmother had a copy of Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother took me over to her house, and they laid me down by her record player, and I listened to Rhapsody in Blue. Now, at that time, I can't remember listening at that time, but when I was 28 years old, I took Leonard Bernstein's version of Rhapsody in Blue, and I studied it till I learned, you know, the part that goes da 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 da, that section.
Yep.
The pretty part of it. I learned how to play that on the piano. It took me about 2 weeks to learn it. And then after I learned it, then I remember hearing it when I was 4 years old.
Kind of brought you back to the first time.
It took me back to when I was just a little kid.
So what was it? The melody?
Well, not just the melody, but the way he constructed his harmonies were kind of special. You know, he used to make harmonies like no other music maker could ever do. He was just a superior music man.
And so it was the hooks that drew you to that music?
Yeah. The hook, you mean the do-do-do-do, yeah. That's the part that blew me out the most, yeah.
Knowing how important the music has been to you, how did you select the songs for this thing? I mean, I can tell you some of my favorites from the record, but I'm just curious, what was it that ended up making these songs the ones that came onto the record?
Okay, here's what happened. First of all, they presented us with 25 George and Ira songs, and they wanted us to dwindle it down to just 12 songs. So we took our favorites, and we had our list of 12 songs to do. Then the Disney people got a hold of 104 unfinished Gershwin piano trips.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happened was they said, I want you to take that 104 and listen to all of them, and then choose just 2 out of the 104 that you can make a song around that will inspire a song. So we did just that. We listened to 100. It took us about a week, but we finally drilled it down to 2, which eventually became The Like and I Love You and Nothing But Love. And those turned out to be very good songs, inspired by the melody and the chords of those 2 songs.
The Like and I Love You is perhaps my favorite on there, and for some reason it has the hook in that thing is so strong it comes right out and grabs you.
That's true. It really does.
And it's a very Brian Wilson sort of feeling when I get that? I mean, I know that from reading the notes about that song that it was inspired by Will You Remember Me? How much of that is in there?
Of what?
In the Like in I Love You, isn't that's like a piece of something unfinished that was part of what originally that Gershwin was working on?
Well, it was a part of it. It was actually, really didn't sound much like, except for a couple chord changes. We listened to those two songs. We dwindled it down to two, and it just inspired the song. It didn't really influence the song, but it inspired it.
When you got them, first of all, what were they, on a CD? I mean, how did you actually get the 104 samples?
Well, the Gershwin people gave it to the Disney people. The Disney people gave it to us. Then we proceeded to learn everything.
Okay. And so you got it on like a disc, basically?
Right.
And it was unfinished actual piano pieces?
By the man himself.
Unbelievable. That had to be, just getting that. I'm just thinking out loud, that part of the project alone was very special.
Oh, yeah. It was one heck of a thrill for me to work with George. You know, it really was. I thought it was quite a moment in my life.
Yeah, well, I mean, it has that feel. The reprise, by the way, is brilliant. The sort of the last breath, if you will, of the record.
Right. Well, I did all four of those voices. That was me.
Help me dissect the huge vocal sound. How does it happen? Is it a matter of like double tracking? What is it that's a key element?
Here's what we do. We quadruple. We do four overdubs for each four parts. So that's 16 voices that you're hearing.
And you're all 16?
Pardon me?
And it's 16 tracks of you.
Yeah. It's like a little choir.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. That's brilliant. Okay, so that's what it is. And in the Nothing But Love, that how much of it was there on that CD? 10 seconds, 20, a minute?
What do you mean?
Like with a sample of Nothing But that you had to work with, when you had these little samples of the unfinished songs, approximately how long were they?
10 seconds.
Wow. Was that the key to getting the Disney deal, was 2 records, one of them being the Gershwin and then the other one being the Disney, I guess, classics or something?
Well, that's later on. We don't know next year.
Right, okay. But I mean, the key was this first record would really be based around the Gershwin music.
Absolutely, and I hope the younger generation, and my generation too, can really appreciate where his music is at. I try to do justice to his music the best I could.
Do you think there's anything you could put your finger on in terms of what gives it that timeless feeling?
The album?
Mm-hmm.
I think because I studied each song, and I gave each song a special treatment. Like when I Loved You, Porgy, I tried to sing it like a girl would sing, because it's a girl singing to a guy. Oh. I managed to get across my feminine voice.
Right. When I hear I've Got a Crush on You or I Got Rhythm, in my head I see this Brian Wilson high school quarterback standing around the drive-in burger place, and the song just fits into your own life autobiographically.
Wow, that's amazing. I think that's fantastic. That's a great observation.
Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
My friend LD had a question relating to your knack for choosing collaborators. What's the secret to finding these folks consistently?
Well, I cannot remember finding them. It's been too long ago. I just know that I've worked with Scott Bennett, I've worked with Tony Asher, Mike Love, Ben Like Parks. You know, I've worked with a number of collaborators.
And there's no real method to how they've come together. It's just they've all contributed so much to your work.
There's no one way or method that we used. It's just that we had a good understanding of music between us, which made it easier to create music.
Right, that makes sense. The vocal sounds that you arrange, Brian, and create are key to your songs and projects from the Beach Boys to today. What are the studio techniques, aside from what you've alluded to earlier of using a total of 16 versions of your voice? Aside from that, what do you do to achieve the unique sound? Is it mic placement? Can you talk a little bit about mic placement, selection, that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, to achieve that sort of sound, you need a microphone that's open all the way around in case there's singers that want to sing with me. If I'm singing alone, there's just one half of the microphone open. And for that reason, that's why I got that sound of 16-track sound.
Okay, and is there a particular mic that you like to use for your voice?
Telefunken.
Say again?
Telefunken mic. Telefunken.
On the making of Good Vibrations, which has been seen as not only a production extravaganza, but really it has a lot more to it. The theremin is used. If you could just give me a little bit of the insight that came to that genius song.
Well, believe it or not, my brother Carl said, "Why don't we use a cello and a theremin?" And I said, "What?" He goes, "In the I'm picking up good." In that he goes, "Why don't we call a theremin player and a cello player from the union and have them come down to the studio and work with us?" So that's what we did, and they wound up being a really good part of the signature of Good Vibrations.
And it really is. And not just is it a production piece, but the other thing I just wanted to hear if you would talk about a little bit, and it's really a part of you and your music and really what you do for your fans. A couple people, when I told them I'd be speaking to you, they all commented about the love you've brought them through your music. And when you think about that song, Good Vibrations, I'm just wondering if you realized, aside from the song's geniusness as a produced song, just the good nature of those two words put together. It's a good way of thinking. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it was Michael's voice Michael's idea to come up with "I'm picking up good vibrations." I wrote a piano chorus that went bom 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 bom. And he took that melody, and turned it into "I'm picking up good." It was quite a coincidence that he could actually do that.
And what a message, though, that it carries to this day. It's like
the message is, I'm picking up good vibrations. It's not with his brain or with his soul. He's picking up good vibrations from a place,
Right. You were able to marry these different influences together, and one of the key things to your sound, or perhaps over the years, the marriage with rock and roll, has been the influence of Chuck Berry. Have you ever gotten to spend any time with him? Where would you see his influence all these years later?
Well, I mean, Chuck Berry is part and parcel of very many of our rock and roll songs.
Mm-hmm.
He literally taught me how to write rock and roll melodies.
And is he someone you still have any relationship with?
I don't. I only met him. I met him one time in Kona about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
He was on an airplane that I was on, headed to Kona. I said, hey, Chuck, are you Chuck Berry? He goes, hey, and then he turned his head away, and he stopped talking. And I said, well, looks like Chuck is in the mood to talk to me. but I wanted to tell him how much his music meant to me, but I didn't get a chance to.
Wow, and you didn't say another word to him?
No, I just went back to my seat, and that was it.
Wow, well, it's great just to hear the encounter. That's amazing, and that guy is really, would you...
Oh, I mean, just let me hear some of that rock and roll music. The way he does that, with such spirit and soul and energy and love, he just puts everything into it.
So it isn't just the sound of the music, huh? It's what you just said. It's the energy and his spirit that had an impact, too.
Right. That's exactly, and that's what Good Vibrations did. It's spirit and energy.
And just to this day, it's a great message. Good vibrations. It's like the right way to think. You give off good vibrations, you get them back, yeah?
That's right. The smile you send out returns to you.
And with that concept, is Smile, as it was released, identical to the vision you had when it was conceived?
Actually, yes, it was. It was very much the same, except we had to create a third movement. There were two movements that were created, and the third one was created in 10,004?
Right.
And we premiered it in London, and it went over fantastic.
So it really was identical except for the addition of the third movement.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And as I wrap it up with you, what city are you calling home these days?
Beverly Hills, Los Angeles.
Good man. I love it there.
Beautiful place. We live in a place called Mulholland Estates, which is we have a guard station. Nobody gets through unless they call us first, and they let them through. So we have security, you know what I mean? not only security, but I have a house which does two things. One, it keeps the sunlight from burning your eyes, and it keeps the cold night down to a minimum.
Right. That's nice. That's got to be a good feeling.
So give me shelter, right, by the Rolling Stones.
And that's what you need in your home. A couple more, and I'll let you go. Am I all right with time, by the way, Brian, or am I driving you crazy?
Cool. Go ahead. Shoot.
Okay. And just an interesting one I noticed when I thought of your personal life. In addition to Carney and Wendy, you have Daria, Delaney, Dylan, and Dash. Are the D's for Dennis?
No. The D's are just because Melinda loves the letter D.
And that's how they came about.
Yeah, and there's also a little baby girl, a 6-month-old baby girl named Dakota.
All with the D's.
All 5 D's.
I like that. I like that a lot. Finally, Brian, after this project, because I have to ask it, I've seen so much in the press about it, and you get into 2011, what are your thoughts on this rumored 50th anniversary Beach Boys reunion?
I have about 5% possible, 90% not possible.
Okay, so hey, there is a chance that it could occur, and
there is a chance, but not a good chance. Right.
No, I understand.
Well, listen, you're Dave, right?
I am.
Hey, Dave. I hope. How do you stay healthy? Do you do any exercise or what?
I walk about 1.25 miles twice a day, and I walk as fast as I can each way, so I end up doing about 2.5 miles round trip.
Cardiovascular. That's fantastic. I'm so glad you're doing that.
Well, thank you.
Well, I walk about 1.25 miles, sometimes 2.5 miles. Yeah.
You're doing that every day?
Well, yeah, including Sunday.
I love that. Well, that's why you're in such tip-top shape, and
Hey, Dave. Thank you so much for this interview. I don't know if I'll see you or not, and if we come to Hawaii, I'll have my publicist give me your number, and I'll call you when I get there if I go to Hawaii. You
are the man. Brian, I'm giving you a big hug, and I really do appreciate your time, brother.
Man, you are something else of an interviewer. Thank you so much for a great interview. I've had thousands of interviews, and it rates in the top 5. And I'll talk to you later, Dave.
Be safe, Brian. Aloha.
Aloha. This is Brian Wilson with my good friend Dave Lawrence.